I used to think family pranks meant swapping sugar for salt or sneaking embarrassing photos into birthday slideshows. But in that god-awful summer, when I was 24, I learned that some jokes are just cruelty wrapped in fake smiles, and some betrayals don't feel like a prank at all. They feel like exile. It was the moment I realized I'd never truly belonged. And the worst part? I spent my entire life thinking I did. If you think I'm being dramatic, let me walk you through it. My name is Noelle, and I was living in a crumbling little town in New Mexico, tucked inside the same creaky house my parents called our legacy. I called it suffocating. College? Never had the chance. My dad, Rick, said college was for people who like to waste money learning how to complain. His words, not mine. He had me working full-time at the family's auto parts shop, doing everything from opening to closing, bookkeeping to sweeping. No salary, just a couple $100 to help out, as he put it. Meanwhile, my sister Brielle, 2 years younger, was the queen of the family. She barely lifted a finger but got treated like royalty. Brielle could spill a drink on a customer, and Dad would joke that she was just keeping things exciting. If I so much as sighed too loud, I'd get told to quit the drama. My mom, Donna, was a peacekeeper to a fault. Soft-spoken, sweet-eyed, but never once raised her voice for me, just whispered, "Don't upset your father," while I held back tears. One night, I walked nearly 6 miles home after a double shift. My only scooter? Brielle had borrowed it and dumped it somewhere out by the river. I got home blistered, sunburnt, and exhausted. My dad's greeting? "What, did you crawl home from a ditch? You look like a damn stray dog." Brielle chimed in with, "Shoulda stayed out there. Might have made friends." They laughed. I didn't. So when Dad announced, out of nowhere, "We're heading to Utah next week for Cousin James' wedding, pack up, no excuses," I knew I didn't have a say. I never did. Brielle drove the family minivan like it was a race car. I was jammed in the back with the suitcases and a melted tub of potato salad. They spent the entire ride recounting my greatest fails. I was the punchline again. On the morning of the 4th day, we pulled over at some dusty roadside stop near Moab. Mountains in the distance, vending machines older than me. I said I needed the restroom. Dad just muttered, "Make it fast," without even looking at me. He didn't need to. That was the last time I ever saw their faces. "You're not some queen who gets special treatment." That's what Rick had muttered before I got out of the car, like I'd dared to inconvenience royalty just by existing. I stepped onto the gravel in nothing but a stretched-out t-shirt and faded jeans. My wallet? Somewhere deep in the suitcases. My phone? Plugged into the dashboard charger that Brielle had monopolized all morning. I was gone maybe 8-9 minutes. Just enough to wash my face, splash some cold water on the exhaustion, but when I stepped back out into the glaring Utah sun, blinking, adjusting, everything in me froze. The parking lot was empty. No silver gray minivan, no Rick, no Brielle, no Donna. It was like they had been erased from the world in one cruel, deliberate blink. For a second I laughed to myself, because it had to be a joke, right? They parked somewhere else. They were hiding, playing one of their twisted little games like back when I was 12 and thought their pranks still came from love. But 5 minutes of circling the restroom, 10 minutes of peeking behind vending machines and calling out timid, broken versions of Dad, Mom, Brielle, it all led to the same truth. They were gone, and they weren't coming back. I sat down on the blistering curb, the cement burning through my jeans. My forehead was sweaty, but my arms broke out in chills. I watched the empty road for a long time, waiting for headlights that never returned. At some point, a passing trucker stopped. "You all right, miss?" I gave him a smile so forced it nearly cracked my face. "My friends are just in the bathroom. I'm waiting." He nodded and left. Because I knew how to look okay, I'd been rehearsing that role for 2 decades. But something shifted in me. For the first time, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity. I felt done. The kind of done that doesn't cry or scream. It just lets go. I had 2 choices: sit here forever, or get up and write a new chapter. Not just from this roadside stop, but from the prison that was my so-called family. I stood up after nearly 2 hours. No phone, no wallet, no plan. But maybe, finally, I had something better. A beginning. Strangers passed by, most pretending not to notice. A little boy tugged at his mother's hand and whispered, "Mommy, is that lady lost?" His mom hesitated when I stepped toward her, my voice barely working. "Excuse me, could I borrow your phone? I got left behind." She stared, then slowly handed it over. I was supposed to call Rick, to beg, to ask why, but all that came were memories. Rick trashing my college forms, Brielle mocking my clothes, Donna pretending not to see. I didn't call them. Instead, I looked up and asked the woman, "Is there a shelter nearby?" She blinked, caught off guard, then nodded. "Glenwood Springs. Maybe 40 minutes out." I swallowed my pride. "Could you take me? I have no one else." Her son whispered again. And just like that, she agreed. "Just to the door," she said, and that was all I needed. I didn't speak a single word the entire ride. But inside, something finally started to breathe. I sat in the back seat staring out the window, unable to believe this was real. Abandoned, empty-handed, riding in a stranger's car like someone who had no home, no name, no past. When we arrived, I stepped out and turned to thank her again. The woman gave me a short nod, then drove off, leaving me in front of a squat building with a faded white sign that read, "Safe Haven Shelter." The front door creaked open. A man in his early 60s stepped out, wearing a worn flannel shirt tucked into jeans, salt and pepper beard, kind eyes. He looked at me without judgment. "Do you need help?" I nodded, not crying, not shaking, just tired. "Yes, I need a place to stay. I don't have ID. I was left behind." He didn't ask for details, didn't question me, just offered a hand. "Name's Max. Come in, young lady. We'll figure it out, one step at a time." As I crossed the threshold, something shifted. A door closing behind me, not just on that day, but on the last 24 years. The next morning, I woke up in a narrow bunk surrounded by 3 strangers. The mattress was stiff, the blanket scratchy, but for once, I didn't feel like an inconvenience. Here, I was just another person trying to make it through. Breakfast was watery oatmeal and a soft banana. I ate it all. Mr. Max let me use the office computer. Everything I owned, phone, ID, money, was in that van, long gone. So I searched. Cash jobs, Grand Junction, Colorado. After an hour, one ad stopped me cold. "Dishwasher needed, Sonny's Diner, cash pay, start today." 4 blocks away. I borrowed a baseball cap, laced up my threadbare sneakers, and walked through town like I had something left to fight for. Sonny's was small, with chipped paint and a crooked sign. I pushed open the door. The bell rang with finality. A woman stood behind the counter, maybe in her 60s, short gray hair with faint purple streaks. Her apron was stained and her arms strong. She looked at me like she'd seen every kind of story walk through that door. "I saw the ad," I said, voice shaking. "I need the job. I don't have papers. I lost everything." She scanned me from head to toe. "I'm Geraldine. If you steal, I roast you. If you don't, get started. Gloves are in the 3rd drawer." That day, I worked like my life depended on it, because it did. Scrubbing dishes, wiping down booths, cleaning bathrooms. At the end of the shift, Geraldine handed me a leftover sandwich and a $20 bill. I nearly cried. By the end of the week, she gave me ID forms. "Don't live like a ghost." I whispered, "Thank you." "Don't thank me," she muttered. "Just do good." 3 days later, I bought a prepaid phone from a corner store. I didn't plan to use it, but that night, it rang. A number I didn't know. I answered. "Noelle," my mother's voice cracked. "Oh, thank God, we thought you got lost. It was just a joke. Your dad turned around but didn't see you." Then his voice in the background, sharp and cold. "Stop coddling her. Tell her to take the damn bus home." If this story moved something in you, if you've ever had to rebuild from nothing, don't forget to subscribe. Noelle's story isn't over yet, and in the next part, you'll see what happens when the people who left her behind come back, not with apologies, but with desperation. She's growing. That was Donna's voice on the phone, tentative, shaky, like she was trying to convince herself. Then Brielle's voice cut through, coated in a snicker. "Noelle, come on. You've made your point. Who knew you were this dramatic? I clenched the phone until my knuckles turned white. No apology, no accountability, not a single ounce of real regret. I exhaled, my voice eerily calm. If the goal was to see if I could survive on my own, congratulations. I am. And from now on, I'm never coming back. I hung up. Then I blocked the number. I went through my contacts one by one, every familiar name, every tie to my old life, and deleted them. Each deletion felt like slicing away one more chain that had kept me tethered to pain. That night, I slept on a thin mattress in the storage room behind Sonny's diner, smelling like old fries and cleaning spray. But for the first time, I felt free. By fall, I had saved just over $300. It wasn't much, but it was enough for a start. I rented a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat on the edge of town. No heat, no A/C, and the ceiling fan squeaked all night, but it was mine. I kept washing dishes at Sonny's. Eventually, Geraldine moved me up to prep cook. She taught me how to run a kitchen like a ship. Tight, focused, no nonsense. If you want to survive in this world, she'd say, control every damn spoon clink like it's a symphony. I did. And I started taking online business classes at night. Nothing fancy, just basic management, budgeting, and supply chain stuff. Then came Kendra. She walked into Sonny's one rainy Tuesday, headphones around her neck and a heavy medical textbook under her arm. Ordered the same thing every time. Denver omelet, no tomatoes, black coffee. She always sat in the same spot by the counter. I started wearing fake name tags just to amuse myself. Amber, Cindy, even Banana. Took her 3 weeks to notice. Is your name tag broken? She asked, laughing, or do you have an identity crisis? That laugh lit something inside me. We started dating, no roses or candlelit dinners, just pizza on the hood of her car and quiet coffee after my shifts. 6 months later, Kendra moved into my apartment. We argued over dishes, took turns cooking, and sometimes snuck up to the roof to watch the stars, even if we could only see 3. Geraldine noticed first. One night after closing, she said, Kendra's good for you, but don't let her see your crazy face when you've had 2 hours of sleep. Nearly 3 years after I was left at that rest stop, Geraldine called me into her office. I'm opening another Sonny's, she said, on the east side, smaller, older building. I don't need a partner, I need someone to run it. You want it? I froze. Who else, the damn cat? 6 months later, I opened Sonny's East. Small, unpolished, but mine. I never knew a hug could feel so gentle until Mr. Raymond, Kendra's dad, wrapped his arms around me after the ceremony. He patted my back and said, Welcome to the family. I don't care what your past looks like. From now on, you're ours. I nearly cried right there, partly because I was overwhelmed, but mostly because no one had ever said ours to me before, with trust, without strings. Life didn't suddenly become easy, but it started to feel real. Kendra and I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment a few blocks from the park. It had creaky floorboards and a tiny balcony where we planted tomatoes that refused to grow. Kendra was in the thick of her residency, working brutal hours, and I was still running Sonny's East. We barely had time, but we made space for each other. 3 dinners a week, no matter how simple. Then came Ellie, a little storm in a yellow blanket. When I held her for the first time, my hands trembled. She looked at me like she was asking, Daddy, are we gonna be okay? I whispered back, I promise. You'll never be left behind. 2 years later, Marcus arrived during a thunderstorm, wailing like he owned the sky. He was a perfect copy of Kendra. Same sharp eyes, same frown when things didn't go his way. There was a time when the word family made me flinch. But one night, while changing Marcus under a dim hallway light, Ellie wandered in holding her teddy bear and mumbled, Daddy, can I sleep in your bed? I tucked them both in and lay there quietly, holding my entire universe. Our weekends were filled with homemade lemonade, parenting tips from Doris, and quiet newspaper chats with Mr. Raymond. We celebrated holidays with laughter, backyard games, and gingerbread cookies that always burned at the edges. One morning, while driving Ellie to preschool, she asked, Daddy, was your old house like ours? I paused, then answered honestly, No, Ellie, my old house didn't have hugs. Or laughter. But this one does. That's what makes it special. She smiled and looked out the window, satisfied. I had rewritten everything. No longer the girl watching through the window. I was inside the warmth now, building a home where love wasn't conditional and trust wasn't earned by silence. Then, on a Thursday afternoon during the lunch rush at Sunny's East, Maya, our new hire, peeked into the kitchen. "Noelle, someone's here, says they're family." That word hit like ice in my chest. I wiped my hands on my apron and stepped outside. And there they were. Rick, hunched and older, still carrying that same entitled stare. Donna, clutching her purse, pale and quiet. Brielle, arms folded, still performing for an invisible crowd. And next to her, a woman I didn't recognize. Probably her second wife. "Noelle?" Rick's voice cracked. "Is that really you?" I met his eyes coldly. "Yes. I'm Noelle. And you? I don't know who you are anymore." "Why now?" Donna reached into her purse and pulled out a thin folder, sliding it across the table. "Medical documents." Rick? Had heart failure, no insurance, the house foreclosed. Brielle was unemployed after a few failed startups. Donna needed knee surgery but couldn't afford it. I didn't even open the folder. 15 years. Not a call, not a text, and now you show up? Because you need money? Brielle forced a smile. "We're family, Noelle. Family helps each other." I tilted my head. "Family? You mean like when you left me at a rest stop in Utah with no phone, no wallet, and drove off like I was a stray?" Rick's voice turned sharp. "We came back to look. You were gone. How were we supposed to know where you went?" "I waited 3 hours, Rick. No one came back." "You didn't forget me. You left me." Donna's tears fell freely now. Real, maybe. I've regretted it every year. I kept waiting for you to call. "And when I didn't?" I asked. "You never called me either. Because silence was easier than the truth." Brielle's tone hardened. "This isn't about the past. Dad's sick. Mom's not well. If you can help, help. If not..." I stood. "Dinner, 6 o'clock, my house. But don't expect what you think you're getting." That night they sat around my table. Kendra set the plates. Ellie clung to her mom. Marcus buried his face into my side. Rick tried to speak to Marcus. He flinched. Donna smiled, but her eyes stayed nervous. Brielle rambled about family values. Her wife said almost nothing. After dinner, I brought out an envelope. Rick opened it. "A check?" he asked. $73? 50 cents, I corrected. "The price of a Greyhound ticket in 2009, from Glenwood Springs to Idaho. I never used it. You can have it back." Rick's face reddened. "You ungrateful brat. We're your parents." "No," I said. "You're the people who raised me. But family? That's something else." The room went silent. "You think you're better than us?" he shouted. I opened the door. "I am better than I used to be. Good luck." They left. No hug, no goodbye, just the sound of tires crunching gravel and the check fluttering back to the porch. Kendra came down the stairs. "You okay?" I nodded, but inside something old had finally cracked open and drained out. Not pain, not rage, just space. The next day, Geraldine slid a paper across the diner table. "Third Sunny's location. You're not just running it, you're co-investing." I signed, without hesitation. That night, at home, Ellie was coloring, Marcus surrounded by blocks. Kendra sat on the couch with tea. "I buried the past," I told her, "and I'm done letting it rot." She smiled softly. "What about the future?" I kissed her forehead. "We build it, brick by brick, together." Thank you for walking through this with me. I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Leave a comment below, not just for me, but for anyone else out there who's still trying to find their way. Share your thoughts, your strength, or even your silence. It all matters. And if this story reminded you that it's okay to start over, then take that reminder into your own life. Choose the people who choose you. Heal at your own pace. And please, subscribe so we can keep